Good afternoon, everybody. Just like that, we are back. We moved from Animal Crossing this morning for 3 hours to a couple hours of Paradise Killer. That game's amazing. And now we're going to do an hour or so of Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York. This is another visual novel. Unlike Paradise Killer, this one doesn't have us walking around in a 3D environment, investigating stuff, collecting things, asking questions and whatnot. In this game, we are a newly embraced vampire. We returned without authorization. We were nearly executed in the last episode for being an unauthorized turn. Kindred, I think they call them. Their name for themselves. It's been about a week, so I've forgotten some of the details. We're playing as a vampire named Loralai. She was a hotshot executive until an investor had a meeting with her, and he turned her. She's aware that her heart isn't beating and she's no longer breathing. She was taken under the wing of a powerful, influential vampire who decided to be her patron. I'm sure there's some sort of ulterior motive there. As I said, the prince was ready to put us to death for being an unauthorized convert, if you will. We are ready to start this game again. We are waking up in our new apartment, in our new life as a vampire. We've been told we cannot contact family, friends, former employees, and employers under pain of death for all of them. So our unlife begins here. We're waking up on our first full day as a member of the Vampire Society. First full day knowing what we are. The bed isn't warm. The room is filled with artificial light from the ceiling. The solid metal door is closed. Normally, you'd stretch for a bit. On some mornings, you'd probably throw the quilt over yourself and snooze a moment longer. We're going to reposition ourselves here, because I'm pretty sure this is the optimum spot for this game. It's down here. Extra life, don't forget. Donate to the kids. The way you woke up now, you are fully conscious. No grogginess, nothing weighing you down, just the nagging need in the back of your head. Hunger, not as severe as last time, but unmistakably there. You get up and open the door to the main room. A digital clock on the TV shows you the time, 9:04 p.m. You walk over to the blinds and retract them cautiously. The only light coming in is New York City's artificial nighttime luminescence. So that's what your waking hours are going to look like now. You missed the sunlight already. You're seriously considered just walking out of the apartment and figuring this all out by yourself, but then you come back to the memory of Kadir's exotic sword being raised in the gallery. Maybe sticking around isn't that bad an idea after all. You keep jumping channels for around half an hour and then switch to streaming services. Almost as if the universe had a sense of irony, you catch True Blood in the flood of recommendations. The doorbell rings. It's Sophie, our new patron. Good evening, Lorelai. Slept well? Like a dead man. Curious wording, but not that far from the truth, I suppose. No use dwelling on it. I think you will agree with time. You made the right choice yesterday. I can teach you many things about yourself, your blood, its desires, its power. We will begin tonight. You are hungry, yes. I'm sure you are. Our kind always is. There is only one remedy, the blood. The drinks we had yesterday at Elysium are not the usual way you slake your thirst. So tonight I will assist you in your first foray into hunting. You need to learn to sense the kind of blood you desire, to understand how you can use the kind's vulnerabilities to your advantage. Well, I'm ready to learn. Let's get started. Such eagerness. Or is it just your hunger making you impatient? You will find that drinking moderate amounts of it regularly will keep the hunger and the whispers of the beast away. You might think yourself monstrous, but there is a balance to be found here. The kiss gives the kind pleasure. You might remember this from your own embrace. Some can even become addicted to the sensation, but if you do it right, they tend to misremember your feeding. After all, vampires do not exist. They are myths, fairy tales, and pop culture mainstays, correct? She gives you a sly, knowing smile. I wish I could do that. That is why the Masquerade is so important, and even more crucial when you feed. How do you avoid being seen while feeding? You isolate your prey, or choose the right circumstances. People tend to avert their gaze when they see a couple intertwined in public. Love bites are easy to explain away. Some of us keep willing herds, or even just individual kind who desire the kiss. That comes at a higher risk these nights, though. So I will not recommend it to a young kindred like yourself. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous, but by branching out, you risk the ire of other kindred on whose domains you trespass. Lucky for you, New York City is more forgiving in this regard. New York is in somewhat of a unique position. Many of its neighborhoods remain contested or unclaimed. The reason for this is a lesson for another time, but keep the following in mind. Take opportunities to feed when they present themselves these upcoming nights. As long as you hunt cautiously and respect the Masquerade at all times, you should be fine. To wit, I want you to join me for a trip tonight. Come downstairs. Gregory is waiting for us. The busy street fills the air with traffic noise, pedestrian chatter, and a mix of smells that disorient you momentarily. These warm bodies contain what you want, what you need. You catch yourself. Did you really just think of these people as mere sources of blood? It takes a nudge from Sophie to break your train of thought. Her driver opens the door for her and then tips his hat to you, gesturing to the back of the car. The car casually joins the somewhat thin New York traffic. It's still busy in a way only one of the biggest cities in the world can be, but compared to the daytime commute, it's a pleasant drive. You barely have time to gather your thoughts and formulate new questions before the car comes to a stop. You're among the tall skyscrapers that make up Manhattan's iconic skyline. Come, Loralai, park the car, Gregory, will you? The driver nods. Sophie gets out. You join her. The two of you walk through the glass doors together to take the elevator up. You first notice an empty stage with the instruments of a string quartet in the back, then take in a few dozen chairs in front of it. The concert seems concluded. The patrons, all smartly dressed and posh, have spread out all over the hall. Sophie strides confidently inside, produces an invitation from her purse that she flashes in front of a security guard. You follow close and are let through without issue. Let's start easy. A social setting like this one would usually prove quite challenging to an inexperienced kindred, but consider this evening a small gift from your patron. Hoping to procure you a willing vessel. I'm hoping to procure for you a willing vessel. Just remember that you have to... what I told you about taking small sips. This one I have a soft spot for. Don't damage her. Now let's see here. There he is. She notices somebody in the crowd, flashing a heart-melting smile, and suddenly even you feel drawn to her. You haven't thought about it before, but it's laid clear before you in this moment. Sophie is beautiful. Just looking at her is a privilege. Just being with her makes you feel elated. Everybody in the crowd, but especially the man who's almost tripping over himself to reach her, clearly agrees. Edgar, I'm so happy to see you. How is your daughter? Is she with you? Oh, there she is. Julie, my girl, come over, please. There's somebody I'd like you to meet. The young woman who walks across the hall can't be more than 19 years old. It is clear from her mismatched earrings and partially faded purple hair dye that she doesn't fit this crowd. Julie, this is Loralai. I think the two of you should get acquainted while I talk business with your dad. Awfully boring stuff, I assure you. I'm positive you'll like each other. The girl gives you a shy smile and nods towards the balcony stairs. You follow, somewhat unsure of what it is exactly Sophie expects you to do. You reach a secluded space from which the entire lobby is visible. All eyes are on Sophie. They listen intently, then laugh when she does. Julie saves you the trouble of figuring out the next step. If you're with Sophie, then, I guess you're, I guess that you know. She puts her wrist to her lips and gives herself a theatrical nip, and then looks to you embarrassed, but also hopeful. What? You're into that sort of thing? She blushes and then looks down at the floor and nods. Could you, if you'd like, Miss Langley tells me She swallows hard, avoids your eyes. That I taste nice. You take her forearm in your hands, a quick look around confirms nobody's watching, and no security cameras cover the area. You bite down gently. It's surreal. She's just given you her blood of her own volition. How is this possible? What about the masquerade? You need to ask Sophie. You tear away from her, a brief convulsion shakes you. Her smell. It's her smell. It's not right. The temporary feeling of bliss the girl felt when you bit her is gone in an instant. She's disappointed, annoyed even. She looks at you, unsure of what's the matter. Come back, please. Just have some more. Just a little bit more. The very thought makes you want to throw up what little of her blood you've tasted. You shake your head. The girl sniffs, starts crying, wipes her face in her jacket sleeve, and walks down the stairs into the hall. The crowd around Sophie disperses slowly. Looking at her now, only some residual awe hangs in the air. Yes, she's pretty, maybe even beautiful, but not your type. What came over you before? Some sort of vampiric power, obviously. You walk over to her. Edgar, dear, it was splendid talking to you, but we need to get going. Give Julie my best wishes. Come with, Loralai. Gregory is waiting for you out front. It's only in the car that Sophie addresses you. So how did it go? I tried, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand the smell or the taste. Curious. I consider Julie's blood to have one of the most exquisite and unique bouquets in the city, and trust me, I have refined taste. She almost sounds like she's offended. Oh well, if at first you don't succeed, perhaps you need a change of pace. Time for the next stop. Training wheels off this time, Gregory. Flushing Meadows, please. The driver takes the car over the Williamsburg Bridge. You settle your thoughts. Those people back at the hall, they were all entranced. Even I was under your spell. What was that? She smiles with satisfaction. That old trick? Just the blood doing my bidding. We all have our talents. Some of them come from the legacy we inherit from our sire. Others can be learned with experience. I can sway people or make them fear me. I see more of the world and in greater detail than some kindred. I can will my body to move with unparalleled precision and grace, and more. All of these skills make me who I am. They also help me hunt. What are my powers? Time will tell. You need to discover them for yourself. When we arrive, experiment. Give different things a try. Follow your instinct and intuition. It will guide the blood. Always keep the masquerade in mind, however. It is all fine if you can disappear in plain sight or command animals with your mind, but save those overt talents for the right place and time. It only takes you half an hour to reach the park. At this time of the night, both you and Sophie leave the car with Gregory left behind again to find a parking spot and keep an eye on the car. Sophie seems deep in thought. She takes in the surroundings with a dreamy gaze. The sky is surprisingly clear tonight. The stars are just barely visible in the light-polluted aura of the city. The writing in this game is so good. I feel like having a snack myself. I'll be by the fountain. Go look for somebody to your liking. See what effects you can achieve with your blood, but only pick one victim. Just one. Then come back. Seeing how she seems not altogether here right now, you decide to leave Sophie to her own devices and seek out your prey. From here, it looks like you have you have a few choices. Just taking a stroll around the park and finding an isolated jogger or someone like them could work, but focusing on one area might work better. The New York State Pavilion might work as a secluded spot. There's a skate park nearby, and worst case scenario, there's bound to be some unfortunate wino around. Or maybe the tennis court's nearby. There's light coming from there, so somebody might still be playing a late night match. They won't be alone though, but they might be tired and let their guard down. As these scenarios play out in your mind, you realize you're planning how to assault a stranger in the middle of the night. It's a weird way to be, but the now familiar hunger prompts you to act. Start walking. The park's many avenues must hold a good spot or two for a predator like yourself. You pass 2 soccer fields and circle around where the Fountain of the Planets once awed visitors with its spectacle before coming across an opportunity. A woman, a small duffel bag on her arm, is making her way through the park in a hurry. She doesn't seem to have noticed you yet. Presence, focus her attention. You think back to what Sophie did in the hall. How she managed to focus the attention of the entire gathering on her. That might be a tall order for you, but a single person could be doable. For a moment, you're thinking about how an old guy in a hood should appear over your shoulder saying, "Use the Force, Loralai." It feels ridiculous. But then something stirs within you. There's a confidence there, an allure that you might have had before, but one that's increased manifold in this moment. You catch the woman's eye. She flashes an unsure smile, almost in spite of herself, as she passes you by. Wait, please. She's tense, gripping her bag close but attentive. Her eyes lock onto yours. The slight smile is there again. Yes, what is it? Almost intuitively, you close the distance between you. She can't look away. She's unprepared for what follows. In a swift move, you grab her and bite down. Her surprise resonates in her blood, hot, excited, fast-flowing. She tenses up, then relaxes. The duffel bag hits the ground. Bliss. Footsteps. You let go of her. She drops to the ground, barely conscious. A hooded man is looking menacingly at you. What do you think you're doing, barging in on my turf like this, Lick? What kind of slur is that? What did you call me? A lick? What is that supposed to mean? Don't be cute with me. I know what you are. Shove that masquerade bullshit up your ass. Better tell me who you're with before my posse shows up and we beat it out of you. So what's this guy? He's got glowing eyes. He's got to be a vampire, right? Came here with Sophie Langley. She's my patron. Doesn't ring a bell. Sounds fancy, though. So he's like a street vampire? He licks his lip, exposing his fangs and looking at you voraciously. A nervous tick or an attempt at intimidation. I wonder, what would Callahan do to you if I brought you in, huh? Break your shins, leave you out to be kissed by the sun? Ooh, concrete shoes maybe. He's old school like that. Dominate. Enough's enough. You won't be intimidated by this asshole. Leave now. His countenance changes. As a cruel beast one moment, a humbled pup the next. He walks away just like that. How did you do it? Not wishing to tempt fate any further, you return to the Unisphere, looking back over your shoulder to make sure you're not being followed. Two figures are visible near the sculpture, a man and a woman, tangled in a passionate embrace. Sophie's getting herself some. No, not exactly. It's Sophie feeding, but this whole scene is set up so that it looks like a couple getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done it 100 times before. It occurs to you that she probably has. The man is unsure on his feet. As she lets go of him and leads him towards a nearby bench, noticing you, she whispers something in his ear and leaves him. Her driver appears from behind a tree. Well, Loralai, how did it go? You're about to answer when the same figure, as before, emerges from one of the alleys. He looks at the three of you, and a predatory smile creeps onto his lips. You're screwed, dumb fuck. You think you can mess with my head and get away with it? Think you'll be safe with your friends? Well, I have friends too. He makes a motion to shout, but two things happen at almost the same time. First, the feeling of warmth and beauty emanating from Sophie flares up again, entrancing both you and the hooded thug. His shout comes out as a weak, confused squeak. Second, Gregory produces a wooden stake from a holster under his jacket and jams it into the thug's chest. Damn. Just like that, in a few seconds, the posturing vampire is down on the ground, paralyzed. I see you've made a friend, Loralai. Curious choice of company, I would say. Who is he? He knew I was a vampire. I don't know, but he knew I was a vampire. He mentioned the masquerade and called me a lick. Did he know? Or did he now? How reckless of him. And rude. I don't think he's a part of our sect, however. Corona Park hasn't been claimed by anyone I know of. Curious. Let's go to the car. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to Kadir tomorrow night. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make this hoodlum's acquaintance. Gregory carries the staked vampire and dumps him in the car's trunk like a mannequin. It's a strange sight, and you're quite happy you're not in that poor fucker's shoes right now. It's almost surprising you get away with just casually throwing a stiff in your car and driving away. But then you remember Sophie has been doing this far longer than you have. Still, the nagging thought that anything you did tonight could have been recorded on a CCTV camera or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone and streamed online fills you with dread. Hunting and using your abilities is dangerous business. It's clear that this whole being a vampire thing has about as many caveats as it has perks. I'm sure it does. Absolutely sure it does. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. I will pick you up tomorrow night, same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at Elysium, and I expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Kadir and the prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. Oh yeah, I can imagine he's going to enjoy meeting Kadir. I hope he gives him a good grilling. The guy's an asshole. Oh, Kadir will enjoy it too, I'm sure. She pauses, seemingly lost in thought for a while. You haven't told me how your hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I would hope? I think so, yes. I'm glad. She doesn't question you further. She seems distracted, not all there. Her thoughts drift, and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. We will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Should be a good day, really. Just like that, without any further courtesy, Sophie leaves, driven to her apartment by Gregory with a body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like these in the past unknowingly? What other secrets did you pass on the streets without knowing their true nature? That's my favorite thing about urban vampire fiction, is the thought that these things are living amongst us. You know, like, that's the best part of Vampire the Masquerade and Interview with the Vampire, True Blood, all those things. Your haven is just as you left it a few hours ago. Although the sun won't come up for some time, you feel tired. You learned something about yourself today, and it'll take time to process. You have powers. You're not in the mood for television, and the few books on the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or sound like a boring read. Nothing left to do but rest. You settle in the back room, lock the door. A moment of hesitation, but then a decision. This time you turn the light off. You think back to Julie. How many people in the city know about this vampiric society? How many are willing accomplices in sustaining it? And the thug you met in the park. If he's not Camarilla, then what is he? Are there independent vampires? How does that work? More questions. You begin wondering if there's ever going to be a night when you can start crossing them off a list instead of adding to it. You close your eyes. You sink into the now familiar void of nothingness. It greets you with open arms like an old friend. Holy shit, are there Vampire the Masquerade novels? To the Google. There are. "13 books released in 1 year? Planned Novel Saga Volume 1. Chelsea's gonna be mad. Whoop, don't knock the water over. They're 20-year-old books. They're hard to find, it looks like. Ooh, Audible. Check Audible. If they're an Audible, I'll listen to them. Oh, there's novellas, huh? Add to wish list. Okay, hold on. Back to it. Open your eyes again. Oh, we're hungry. We're very hungry. Hold on, I gotta answer this. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand, the melancholy of resistance, the title sure on brand. Good evening, Lorelai. Good evening, Sophie. I'm not even going to talk about, like, how did you get inside. She's Sophie. I hope you rested well. Tonight will be quite eventful, I think. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sophie. He starts the car, and then you take your seat in the back. I really want to play this as a tabletop RPG. Most of the Primogen Council is bound to be there. At least those who... Primogen Council is here to be there. At least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you'll do well to at least learn about. How should I carry myself? You never told me if there's a savoir vivre? I'm sorry, I don't do French. Rules I should expect while talking to other vampires. Knowing that you're among your superiors is probably the most important. In our society, status comes with age. Pardon my sincerity, but you are insignificant. Not even associating with me can make the fact that you've been kindred for barely a few nights be forgotten. So know your place. Stay out of your superior's business and show the utmost respect. Be seen and not heard. Thank the prince for sparing you, and maybe having a friendly chat with Kadir. With Kadir publicly might show your gratefulness for being a part of the Camarilla now. I would suggest you make it sincere. Absolutely. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I've told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear what she's really concerned about, her own interest. You step into the art hole with something of a bad memory. The last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down and your existence nearly ended. We're hungry. See the red around the outside? We're hungry right now. But tonight there's very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that's definitely intended to remind you of your place, but the prince also intended to seem pleased to see you. Welcome, Sophie, Lorelai. Did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there's somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight. Yes, Prince. They will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. This better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Lorelai's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch, that must have hurt his ego, even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you grit your teeth in anger, asshole. Settling you with a curse that cut you off from your career, cheated you out of your ambitions, offering little in return so far. You remind yourself that defeatism will get you nowhere. Mindfulness, the here and now. This is an opportunity. You will make the most of it, if only to spite everyone who doubts your true worth. Absolutely. I love this character. The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit-clad inert vampire still staked on his shoulder. The show's about to start. Sophie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life and he starts looking around in disbelief. Like a cornered animal, he backs out on all fours, keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why, who do we have here? Oh fuck, oh shit. No, come on, don't. Silence! The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrieks, and you can swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. Probably. It's unlike anything you've experienced in his company during your turbulent first night as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. It seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower to not crawl into a fetal position and start crying. No, please. Don't hurt me, man. Don't. You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs at the prince's discretion. Please, go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince. Get up. Let's go. I love Kadir. Kadir is just such a good character. He doesn't wait for a confirmation. He just grabs the man and drags him, kicking and screaming, out of the room. Conversations start all around you, some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored of the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. So, what happens now? It'll be at least some minutes before Kadir gets the information he seeks out of this thug. Why not mingle while we wait for him to break? Excuse me. Sophie leaves your side and goes to the corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gathered. A concierge offers you a drink. It's still warm. It smells nice. Just a sip to start off, you splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. See, the blood went away. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here those few nights ago. She has a cold but noble countenance to her. Their conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man who you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting up different patrons. You feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. You approach the prince, trying to stay as respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samira. Yes, Loralai, what is it? I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realize it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do that from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of this city that it was so, and there might be more to your future nights than just survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me. That's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with Samira still. Enjoy your night, Loralai. Just bow and leave. Okay, yep. I think that's the right move. To not even talk, just bow and leave. You notice Sophie mingling with other kindred, clearly in her element and not to be disturbed. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably still find time for at least one conversation. Confront the man looking at you. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everybody in this room has at one point or another. It's how he does it. He seems shy, maybe even afraid. It's hard to find a secluded spot in the gallery tonight, but this guy has an entire corner of the room all to himself. As you approach, he's standing alone with no glass in hand, a worried look on his face. I bet he's human. So, care to tell me what's so interesting about me that you've been looking at me since I came in? Sorry, didn't mean to pry. Just seeing how you're doing. You're still in one piece. That's good, I'm glad. He doesn't have glowy eyes. Is he human? The name's Larson, or you can call me Robert. Either's fine. Why are you standing around by yourself like this? I'm not hugely liked around these parts. I'm surprised you wanted to talk to me. Then again, you're new, so you probably don't know. I'm one of Prince Panhard's Primogen. I'm here on business in case the prince requires my insight. Usually it's so she can hear me out before ignoring me. I'm not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether or not you should be executed, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. What was your reasoning? Not that I'm ungrateful, but out of curiosity, what was your reasoning? My reasoning? Just common sense. That you shouldn't be blamed for being assaulted and essentially murdered to boot. But as Kadir loves to say, the traditions are clear. Listen, I don't want to be rude, and I appreciate you reaching out, but word of advice, stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as Primogen to be some kind of joke. You know, you talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. Give a quick look behind you to see that a few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman in particular, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me, I need to try to get a word in with a few Primogen members before Kadir returns. Enjoy your night. But just the critical looks of a few kindred to keep you company, you start thinking about who to pursue next. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everyone's attention. Kadir is back and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes his unfortunate victim inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat is still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face in welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken, you think. Something's protruding there, making the pant leg bulge. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Tell the prince your name. It's Howard. You can just barely make out the heart on the I love beer hat. And who do you run with, Howard? I like Kadir. The Midnighters. An Anarch Coterie, my prince. Active for some time now, though from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group has kept over the years. I see. Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't. A loud crack makes some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir's slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. Fitting. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That alone would be enough to pass swift judgment, but he is also anarch scum. My prince, there can only be one verdict. Final death. Do your duty, Sheriff. Unless, of course, someone would like to play at being a good Samaritan like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. The look the prince serves you and Sophie is a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm under yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. The moment you catch Howard's eye, ordering comes to you almost instinctively. Stop! He stops and looks at you with one eye, the other swollen closed by Kadir's interrogation. A swift slash separates his head from his shoulders. The body slumps to the ground and starts decomposing in front of your eyes. The sheriff, sword in hand, gives you a nasty smile from behind where Howard used to stand. Oh, Lorelai, your eagerness is laudable if unnecessary. That Howard fellow couldn't have hoped to escape his fate, not facing Kadir's expertise. However, I have made note of this show of loyalty on both you and your patron's accounts. Nailed it. I would like to thank Ms. Langley for bringing this Anarch thug to my and Kadir's attention. I assume all have found the verdict satisfactory. It is a rhetorical question, and everyone here knows it. Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room, and you see that many of the guests move to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what has transpired. You probably have the time to strike up conversation of one of your own too. Kadir Al-Azmai is still here, for one, but clearly getting ready to leave. Larson is still moping around, and the other man you noticed before Kadir brought the Anarch is still chatting with the remaining attendants. I need to talk to Kadir and thank him. The sheriff's mood seems to have improved, so you decide you won't get a better shot at saying your piece. He's just sheathing his sword as you approach him. He notices you just before his notices you just before his face turns from a melancholic frown back to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him in a moment of reflection. What is it, Loralai? I wanted to thank you for bringing me here in one piece, for giving me a chance. An emotion creeps onto Kadir's face that you haven't seen the sheriff exhibit yet. Is that gratitude? It's fleeting, only there for a moment, gone in a blink of an eye. It was trying on my nerves, and you were still far away from proving that it was the right thing to do, so don't think that a few kind words will let you off the hook. Still, I have to admit, I was surprised as the prince when you jumped at the opportunity to stop that Anarch from escaping. I was sure Valerie would have beat you to it. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. Tell me, do you enjoy this, being a sheriff for Prince Panhard? Enjoyment has nothing to do with it. It's my duty. When Calibros asked me to fill the shoes of the sheriff and root out our enemies, I was glad to serve the sect. When Helene became prince and asked that I keep doing this, I agreed, because I believe in the Camarilla and I respect the fact that I respect the fact that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. He picks up the sword and turns towards the stairs. If more kindred understood that, my job would be much duller, though. On that note, I wish you good night. And watch yourself. You've messed up my batting average, so I'm sure to keep a close eye on you. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. I like him a lot. I hope we don't end up crossing paths in a negative way. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time you arrive at another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs, though, through a very nice lobby and a luxurious-looking hall into her domain. Please have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in your surroundings. The apartment is like a gallery, an old-school smoking room that you've seen in some period piece once, and a nouveau-rich living room. There's a riche, meticulously combined together. Apologies, old habits die hard. Clearly some stick with you even after your death. She drags on her cigarette and breathes out. Breathes. How is she doing that? Can you do that? Oh yes, you might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you'd like. Other things too. Experiment and you might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. That door in the back of the bedroom, similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I needed your best behavior to uphold my good standing with the court, I meant it, but that's not the whole story. I have your interest in mind too. That's why I've given you your own haven, why I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality, but you need to trust me or else this won't work. You can come here whenever you feel like asking me something, when you're in trouble too, though I hope that won't happen often. I would ask you come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. I will be here. I appreciate that. The silence again. There's definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight. She doesn't seem eager to share with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. We'll give you a lift. A quick trip. I promise that you'll show up tomorrow. And some polite goodbyes later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into this secret society and its rules. Whatever Sophie has planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing you have become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. It's a welcome change. Once more, darkness falls upon the city. You waken up, same as you have these past few nights, in a windowless room. As you pry open the reinforced steel door, you look out at the window to see invariably a sky bereft of sunlight. And then it hits you. The hunger, yeah, we can see it around the screen. See the blood? For a moment, you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's not just there. It's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much a chance of kickstarting your heart with jumper cables. You lock the apartment behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her. Might as well not keep the lady waiting. And what else are you going to do? Get in touch with your boss. He's probably looking for you, if only to scold you for the unattended files piling up on your desk. But what is he going to do? Call the cops? Not worth the hassle. You're almost hoping the few coworkers that seem to give a shit about you were faking it. It would make things easier. A fresh start from the ground up, just like old times. I mean, is it really a fresh start if you're still in New York City? These thoughts put you in a weird mood. It's a strange sensation to walk around the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected. All these people, you're not one of them. Not anymore. You're a vampire, kindred, and you need to carve out your own path in this strange new existence. One way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Sophie's building just as that thought crosses your mind. A quick word with a security guard and you're let into the elevator. Apparently, Ms. Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. You knock and wait patiently as the footsteps on the other side grow closer. Finally, the door opens, and Gregory, Sophie's driver, invites you in. You find the lady herself standing by the window, silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless, like a marble statue. Greet. Good evening, Sophie. She doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out of some meditative state and looks at you with strangely bleary eyes. Yes, good evening, Loralai. I was wondering, when you look out at the city, when you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. The lights and rain, the relentless honking below, music blasting from a nearby window, echoing off the buildings. Someone should record an hour of this and throw it up on YouTube as an ambient piece. Other than that, though, it's business as usual. The sights, the sounds, the smells, you know them all too well. Sophie watches you. You can tell she's disappointed. Somehow, but she covers it up with a courteous smile. Well, not everyone can appreciate the intricacies of what the world offers. In fact, among kindred, my clan is somewhat notorious for finding innate meaning in even the mundane. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of Clan Toreador. There are 13 such bloodlines among us kindred. That's why there's 13 books that we were just looking at. Though that number has been contested in the past, in these nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. The clans have gone by many epithets over the years, but the names used these nights have their roots in medieval times. The original Inquisition, if you can believe it. They used these to categorize us, describe our inherent differences, and in time we adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it, inescapable. Originating from ancient progenitor, carried from sire to child. For the Toreador, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either where most cannot. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. The sheriff of my clan as well. The sheriff is of my clan as well, although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir. It breaks my heart to see him in this state. Still, there is a beauty to it as well. Nothing like a good fall from grace. Try as she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but is quick to regain her composure. Then there are the Ventru, known for their pride and a proclivity to rule over others. The prince represents that clan, as is quite common in our society around the globe. Where the Blue Bloods think themselves rulers, the Bruja like to see themselves as preeminent revolutionaries. They call for universal rebellion while being slaves to their own temper. We don't discuss the rabble much anymore, not after they've largely broken off with the Camarilla. to think they were philosophers once, long ago. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. Do you know what my clan is? No, I can only guess it based on certain aspects of your behavior and taste. You will need to come to your own conclusion and seek validation from your clanmates if you require such a thing. As you will no doubt learn, some kindred fit these stereotypes more than others. The blood is hard to deny, though there are certainly those who try. But that is perhaps a subject for another time. I invited you here for a reason. There is something I wanted to speak with you about. It is customary in our society, especially among younger kindred, to organize into Coteries. Hence the title of the game, right? Sometimes these are called by the president themselves, or mandated by a fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, is something of a necessity these nights. I like that use of nights instead of days. We might be selfish creatures, but we are drawn to each other nonetheless. Any suggestions on where I should start looking? I was just about to get to that. She puts on a mysterious smile. I spent some of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Absolutely. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide, lenses through which to view our kind. They are all members of the Camarilla, of course, more or less. Okay, who are they? Alright then, let's hear it. Who's on the list? Eager to learn about them, I see. Good, I'm glad. I know it's annoying me reading everything, but I'm working on my tabletop role-playing abilities, and this game gives me the opportunity to do that, so I don't just want to be boring old chat every time I play a tabletop game. So let us start with Tremere. With the Tremere. They are a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. They have an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. Blood sorcerers. That's cool. You flash back to one of those nights when your ex would stay up late playing video games. Not a pleasant connotation. Sophie snickers. Oh, child, don't be caught with that look on your face. Thank you. Also, welcome back. Oh, child, don't be caught with that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They really are adept at using vitae, their own as well as others, to unique and potent effects. Since they are quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred I had in mind for you might need some persuading. His name is Agathon. From what I hear, he's quite the scholar, very ambitious. The child of a noted premier here in New York, Eiling Sturbridge. Spend enough time with Agathon, and I'm sure you'll run into her sooner or later. The whole blood magic thing sounds intriguing. Ah, yes. Fascinating. It is also a well-kept secret of the Tremere. Don't expect them to share it right away. Some things have to be earned. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in the New Age bookstore out on Broadway. Sounds like my kind of place. The Tremere have one of their workshops there. Gregory will give you the details. Now, this next recommendation comes with a bit of a caveat. As you might recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there is one clan whose members wear their curse on their sleeve. The Nosferatu. The way she said it, you're pretty sure it should mean something to you other than sounding foreign and doesn't ring any bells. No wonder they make their havens in sewers, abandoned buildings and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Poor clan. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago, so they can't keep up the masquerade then. Masquerade, excuse me. Did she just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you could swear the skin suddenly took on an even more sickly color. The one I have in mind isn't as big an eyesore as the worst of them. he is no Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections that you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo, and he has an office, for lack of a better term, in the otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Red Hook, right next to one of those right next to one of those Swedish stores. The name escapes me. The one with the awful furniture. A Swedish furniture store. You mean IKEA? Yes, that's it. My mind struggles to retain things that are aesthetically displeasing. D'Angelo does odd jobs for Kadir, digging up dirt, locating kindred who would prefer to remain hidden, the kind of work the Nosferatu are best at. He's on a case right now, something to do with kind murders, I think. After your initial brush with our dear sheriff, I think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might be just the thing. She takes a brief pause to look out the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Exotic as if blood magic and the vampire detective were business as usual. You may have heard about the Gangrel before. They are a wild clan, in touch with their beast in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of the big cities, but there are exceptions. Nominally, they haven't been a part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades. But the one kindred I would like you to meet has a strong, shall we say, familial tie to the sect. Her name is Tamika. Her sire, Jezebel, was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in 1999. The very same battle that cemented the city as Camarilla domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognized. Tamika and a number of her siblings still reside in the domain they were awarded after the battle, Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being underappreciated. You seem to know a lot about her sire, but there's anything else you can tell me about Tamika? I looked around. Out of all of Jezebel's children, Tamika is known for being the most rational and cool-headed, at least for a gangrel. That said, she's likely to have a unique way of appraising your worth. I cannot say how exactly, but you should at least be prepared for an interesting conversation, to say the least. Then again, that could be said of almost every kindred in the city. There's that mysterious smile again. So, you see, seeking out Tamika could prove quite educational if nothing else, and who knows, perhaps you will find her temperament to be a welcome change of pace. But speaking of a change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though I hope it's one I don't make lightly. The kindred who calls herself Hope. She's a Malkavian. They are a uniquely cursed clan. For centuries, we consider them mad, insane, unhinged, but those of us who spend enough time with them come to understand the truth. It is no sickness, but a unique perception of the world that has them appear to us as unstable, and that perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on your nerves and a true test of patience at times, but their insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope, specifically, she is said to be a recluse, but I have it on good authority that she can currently be found in an internet cafe, I believe it's called, in Lower Manhattan. Gregory has the address. An internet cafe? Really? How quaint. I really wouldn't know. But since you brought it up, be aware that the Carmela is highly critical of using the internet to communicate. The Second Inquisition made sure of that. Exercise caution when at her haven. Well, I believe that is all of them. I have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight and tomorrow night to arrange some cordial visits of your own. I will send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. Oh, that reminds me, you will need a car. Join us downstairs, won't you? She smiles once more and turns to her driver. He helps her put on her coat, and the three of you leave Sophie's apartment. Sophie points you to one of the cars in the building, near the building, as Gregory hands you the keys. It's a rather inconspicuous compact car, a decent-looking, if not luxurious, ride. Stay safe, Loralai. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. Yeah, I'm hungry. Got the blood around me there. As they drive away, you find yourself with more freedom than you've had in the past few nights. A blessing or a burden, time will tell. With a list of addresses in hand, you consider your next move. So. There's Agathon up there. There's Hope. Yeah, he's not terrible looking. He just looks slightly deformed, like he's been beaten up or something. Tough choices. Tough choices indeed. Part of me wants to meet the crazy one. Part of me wants to meet the blood mage. Part of me wants to meet the Nosferatu detective. And part of me wants to be the Gangrel warrior. I'm split in 4. Interesting that when you go up, it skips the Nosferatu. What is the second Inquisition? Okay, that's cool. Man, I like the world of this game. Let's go for the Nosferatu. As you make your way down Clinton Street, the incessant hum of traffic gives way to the ominous silence of the waterfront. You stop to take in the familiar bouquet of the Hudson, made all the more potent by your recently sharpened senses. I bet that smells terrible. Across the basin, the Red Hook grain terminal rears its rusty frame. Once a bustling industrial area, now a sleeping giant splayed out on the riverbank. Forgotten. Abandoned. I really love the writing in this game. Conveniently so, especially for one of the hidden. Keeping to the shadows, you sneak closer to the dilapidated complex, making your way past hole-ridden silos and wobbly chain-link fences. By the time you reach the entrance to the main building, you can almost feel the rust particles making themselves cozy at the back of your throat. Not getting your hopes up, you give the door a slight nudge. To your surprise, it gives almost instantly. It looks like someone's been using it recently. Once inside, you find yourself in a large empty hall. Looking around, you can almost picture it in the back. You can almost picture it back in its heyday, stacked to the rafters with heavy machinery. You notice a set of stairs leading up to a mezzanine, most likely an office space, and then you see it. A faint light coming from one of the upper rooms. Looks like you're in luck. Quietly, with bated breath, you climb the steps and approach the dimly lit room. The door creaks open, revealing what looks like an old-timey detective's office, complete with crooked window blinds, an overflowing ashtray, and paper scattered across a wooden desk. Suddenly, it hits you, that nagging feeling. This is all too convenient, too inviting. Before you can react, the trap is already sprung. A plume of cigar smoke wafts over your shoulder, the barrel of a gun rubs against your spine, a raspy voice whispers in your ear. Let me guess, took a wrong turn at the third silo? Presence. Driven by a strange hunch, you open your mouth, you hear yourself talking, but the words are not yours. They seem to be coming from the deepest recesses of your memory, a movie you saw as a child. You don't know why, but it seems oddly appropriate. I know what you're thinking. This punk ain't got nothing on me. I'm sitting pretty on a loaded Colt Detective Special, 5 in the cylinder, 1 in the chamber, and I only need the 1. As corny as it sounds, the stranger seems oddly receptive to your tough guy monologue, so you decide to bump it up a notch. Focusing your will, you boost your aura, filling the room with your presence. Your voice becomes smooth, oozing with charisma, a regular Sam Spade. You yourself can't help but feel a sense of awe. Hopefully the stranger feels it too. But then there's that nagging feeling. What if there's more to this gal than she lets on? What if she's got me right where she wants me? Maybe I should hear what she has to say. Is that right? Yeah, so how about we drop the tough guy act and talk like adults? You can always shoot me once we're done. The writing in this game, man. For a few tense seconds, the room grows quiet. So quiet, in fact, that you could swear you can actually hear the smoke swirling in the air. Finally, the stranger speaks again. You got a point there, kid. In a strange interplay of light and shadow, the stranger reappears behind his desk. Seeing him in full, or lack of a better word, glory, you can't help but smirk. This is the dreaded Nosferatu? The way Sophie described him, you were expecting some grotesque monstrosity. But this guy, the clothes, the swagger, the hard-boiled detective routine, it all comes across as a bad joke. Still, when it comes to appearance, his lineage is undeniable. From 30 feet away, he could probably pass for a bum with a nasty skin condition. From 5 feet away, he looks like he's something to be... I couldn't even read it without laughing. From 5 feet away, he looks like something made to be seen from 30 feet away. He leans back in his chair, casually pointing his gun at you. So, what brings you to my humble office? You the one they call D'Angelo? That's my name, kid. Don't wear it out. My friends call me Jin, so you best stick to D'Angelo for the time being. Now I suggest you tell me what this is about. Otherwise, I kindly ask you to get the fuck out of my office. Charming. I can see why Kadir keeps you around. His expression sours. Not a name you casually want to toss around, kid. But hey, I get it. You're not some random schmuck who wandered in here off the street, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Who I work for is less important. What I'm working on, however. The Red Hook murders. I know. I want to help you catch the killer. His moldy lips twist into a smile. Do you now? D'Angelo lowers his shades for a few seconds. He sits motionless with his eyes fixed on yours. Suddenly he raises his gun, almost making you flinch. Almost. Then he twirls it into his shoulder holster at a flashy display that definitely looks like it was practiced. A lot in front of the mirror. You see the Nosferatu's lips move, but the quiet mumbling clearly isn't meant for your ears. Listening in, you're able to catch snippets of his monologue. Sure, they seem to care. What was the end game? What was their angle? Everyone's got one. Even if they pretend like they don't. Especially me. What the hell? Maybe this town finally got to me. He pauses, sticks a fresh cigar between his crooked teeth. Maybe a good leap of faith is just what the doctor ordered. As he reaches into his pocket, you flash a lit lighter before his eyes. Or maybe you could use a healthy dose of unhealthy. For a split second, he gives you a puzzled look. Then he leans over to your lighter, puffing on the thing. As it catches fire, a wry smile comes back to his lips. I like you, kid. You might look like a used car salesman, but there's something about you. Tell you what. I was just about to head out to the crime scene, take a look around, refresh my notes. You can tag along if you want to. I could use an assistant. Someone to take notes and make wild assumptions for me to shoot down. Who knows? If you're any good, I might consider making this a long-term arrangement. You won't regret it. Guess we'll find out. Just one more thing. You still got me at a disadvantage here. Seems like you've done some digging on me, but with you, I've barely scratched the surface. You catch my drift? So answer me this. Who was it that sent you into my neck of the woods? Or in layman's terms, who do you work for? Sophie Langley. For the first time since you got here, the Nosferatu adopts a look of genuine surprise. His eyes wander for a moment, finally giving way to a crooked smile. So you're the one, huh? The fledgling the Toreador dame spared. Yeah, that would make sense. Don't think she'd appreciate you throwing her name around. Thanks for being up front, kid. One blink is enough for you to miss D'Angelo vanishing from his chair. Just when you're about to look around, he reappears right next to you. Up close, his smile is even more unnerving. Alright, moonlight's burning, let's get cracking. With a certain fascination, you watch D'Angelo stumble his way across West Brooklyn. Oddly animated, incessantly scratching his face and neck, stopping every once in a while for a bout of mumbling narration. He is most certainly a sight to behold. Still, he seems to be getting around okay, and you take particular note of the fact that he seems to be choosing the darker, less frequented streets. There's definitely a method to his madness. Eventually, your leprous guide takes a sudden turn off to Van Brunt Street and into a particularly dingy alleyway. The torn pieces of yellow police tape are a dead giveaway. This has to be the place. Well, here we are. Time for you to earn your stripes, kid. This is where they found him, Drained dry. Not a drop of blood in him. And before you ask, no, I didn't get to see the body, so I don't know if there were any bite marks. So, what can you tell me? You take a moment to examine the crime scene. Judging by the chalk outline on the pavement, the man was killed recently. Curiously, there doesn't appear to be a trace of blood or viscera. And you know the city's cleanup crew isn't that fast or that thorough. Looking up, you notice a spray-painted sign on the wall. It says, "The Blood Speaks" in big crooked letters. You look to D'Angelo. The Nosferatu gives you an expecting look. You point at the spray-painted sign. That looks like a clue. Sure, kid, might as well start with the elephant in the room. What do you think it means? You give the sign a good hard look. It's no Rembrandt. The writing's jagged, clearly done in a hurry. Nothing, it's meant to throw us off. Nah, I can see why you'd think that, but look how crooked the letters are, barely legible. You can't fake something like that. Someone was very nervous, very scared. It definitely meant something to them. And then there's the blood, or lack thereof. Given that the murder was committed right here and the victim didn't make a sound, we can therefore conclude that the killer was kindred. Bingo! Only a kindred could drain a human this quickly, this quietly. Tell me, if you were to guess, which clan would you say our killer belongs to? Maybe it's a Malkavian serial killer? They're pretty nuts, right? Nah, kid, the Moonies can be a bit playful, but there's a method to their madness. It leaves a certain aftertaste. This right here, this just reeks of desperation. I might be jumping to conclusions, but my money's on the Thin Bloods. That was my guess, and I should have took it. He pauses, spits out the mangled remains of a cigar. Shit. Looks like we're gonna have to pay Larson a visit. Larson? The Thin Blood Primogen? No, Larson the bicycle repairman. Of course the Thin Blood fucking Primogen. Not sure if he knows who the killer is, but he could probably make an educated guess. In any case, we'd be doing him a favor. If it turns out one of his is violating the Masquerade, it would put him in a hell of an awkward position. And I mean shitting upside down awkward. It's the kind of weakness the other Primogen would love to exploit. His position in the council is bad as it is. He pauses for a moment, mumbles to himself, but it's too quiet for you to make out. Finally, he lights up a fresh cigar, takes a puff, and lets the smoke escape through his crooked smile. Alright, kid, let's get this over with. Compared to the industrial ugliness of Red Hook, Sterling Place is quite a change of scenery. Yeah, I like that. That's a pretty picture they painted there. The heavily gentrified and pleasantly dull residential area emanates from the sort of peaceful apathy that rich hipsters scoff at and blue-collar workers dream of. That is a fucking well-crafted sentence. The heavily gentrified and pleasantly dull residential area emanates the sort of peaceful apathy that rich hipsters scoff at and blue-collar workers dream of. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Yes, Knight. Shitting upside down would be more than a bit awkward. Like, it's a great expression. I'm going to have to remember that. I'm going to have to file that away. All of a sudden, the Nosferatu stops. It almost seems like he was taking a deep breath, steeling himself for things to come. This is the place. With that, he points to a surprisingly nice-looking two-story house. The place is almost completely dark. Almost. You notice a dim light shining through the curtains of an upper-story window. It's probably safe to assume that the head of the family is working late, especially if the head of the family happens to be a vampire. Okay, kid, we gotta be gentle about this. I'm talking velvet glove, soft cushions. You rang, my lord, gentle. We need to get Larson out here without making a fuss or letting his family see us. If we blow this, he'll shut down like a speakeasy on raid night. Trust me, I know. All right, Knight. Have a good night's sleep. I forgot you're overseas. It's like 10 o'clock for you, isn't it? 10, 11 o'clock. Have a good night. I'm going to continue my vampire story. I'm going to continue sitting here reading to myself like I'm a character actor. Okay, so what's the plan? Tell you what. How about you take the lead on this one? I'm curious to see how you handle it. You take a step back and look around the area. The lit up window seems like a safe bet. Now it's just a matter of getting Larson's attention, his and no one else's. As you're trying to come up with a viable strategy, you are suddenly startled by a loud noise. It takes you a second to identify the sound as a dog barking. It doesn't take you long to figure out where it comes from as a bearded man leading a Rottweiler on a leash comes into view. You kneel down and pick up a rock off the lawn, one small enough not to break glass, but big enough to get someone's attention. Deftly, you chuck the rock at the window. It bounces off the glass with a quiet but audible thunk. Moments pass in silence, making you think no one got your message. Just as you start to look for another rock, you hear the window slide open. A very unassuming and slightly unshaven man in a turtleneck appears at the window. As soon as he notices you, his expression sours, like he just smelled something rotten. He addresses your Nosferatu partner in what could be only described as a very loud, very angry whisper. Get the fuck off my lawn, D'Angelo. You know goddamn better than to show your ugly mug around here. You glance over to D'Angelo. He looks somewhat embarrassed, scratching the back of his neck, clearly trying to find the right angle to play this. We wouldn't have bothered you if this wasn't important. Loralai, stay where you are. You wait out on the lawn, listen to Larson quietly making his way downstairs. Before long, he appears on the porch, locking the front door behind him. He motions at you to follow him off to the side of the house. There he turns toward you. What do you want? It's about the Red Hook murders. We think one of yours is responsible. Bullshit. A Duskborn's got enough trouble just staying alive out here. What could possibly make them openly violate the Masquerade? Desperation? The killer's been leaving messages. Whoever they are, I think they know something they can't share with just anyone. I know it seems far-fetched, but it's the only way it's the only way this puzzle fits together. Nah, I don't buy it. You're reaching. Trying to find a scapegoat. Get in your boss's good graces. Word gets around, D'Angelo. You think I don't know who you're working for? Then help us clear your people's name. What have you got to lose? Everything. I've been a thorn in the council's side for a while now. This is just the excuse they need to get rid of me. What if it turns out one of yours did do it, and you set on your hands to protect him? You think the council won't jump on that? He looks off into the darkness, pondering his options. He lets out a heavy sigh. Look, I'll ask around, consult my sources. If it turns out one of my own is responsible, they will face justice. In the meantime, keep your deductions to yourself. I have enough trouble as it is. Deal. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my work. To my family. And with that, Larson retreats into the elusive safety of his home. You decide it's best to move along. You walk a couple blocks in utter silence. Even D'Angelo's mumbling seems to have taken a back seat. Oddly enough, you find his newfound reticence somewhat unnerving. Finally, the Nosferatu stops and turns towards you. Hell of a night. Hell of a night. I don't know about you, kid, but I sure could use a drink. Something warm, and a tall, sweaty glass. But first, let me tally your score. Let's see now. You did make a good first impression. I like someone who can talk themselves out of a tight spot. Talking's cheap, bullets not so much. You held your own at the crime scene. Nothing I hadn't figured out on my own, but hey, we can't all be professionals. Finally, when the situation called for subtlety, you managed to avoid unwanted attention. Discretion is what separates a private dick from just any old dick, you know what I mean? All in all, you did fine. Not fine, but not bad for your first case. Don't let it get to your head. I'll be in touch. Let you know if I hear from Larson. Be ready to meet me at the office. He starts to walk away, but suddenly stops and turns back toward you. And bring a notepad. Every good assistant should have one. Whew. Tried to do character voice there. So, I have to rest now. I can't meet anybody. Poop. Alright, we rest. We're gonna stop right here. We're gonna save and exit. I'm gonna get up, move around, stretch, hydrate, all that stuff. You know, because you don't want to sit for too long and get a blood clot and die from playing video games. We've been going strong. We started at 10 a.m. this morning. It's now 5:15, so that's 7 hours. We're going to figure out what we're going to play, and then we'll be right back. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me on this ride as we try to raise money for Extra Life. We haven't raised a damn dime yet, but I'm having a good time, and that's important as well. I do need to drink some water. Try to do a voice for that Nosferatu detective. Strained my vocal cords a little bit. A career in voice acting I do not have, I don't think. Let me put it in the chat here. It's in the chat. It's under the video. It will be in the description of the YouTube video. The link to Extra Life. We are trying to raise money for sick kids. It's important. As a father myself, I can't imagine the strain of having severely sick children. Like, my kids get colds and stuff all the time. It's a huge stress. On top of the stress of having a sick kid, then you have the money stress as well, because medicine isn't cheap in this country. It's fucked up, it's wrong, but it is reality. So let's raise money for sick children. Get the family some help. Get the kids some treatments. We've raised $75 so far. I want to see that number going up, not sitting still. I want to see money come in for the children. I have instituted some incentives, not milestones. They're different. We're working on milestones, but incentives are there to incentivize you to throw a couple bucks our way. $5 will get you a thank you video for your eyes only. I will send it directly to you. It might be unlisted on YouTube, but however I need to do it, like, it'll be for your eyes only. I don't have a 10, 15, or 20, or 25, somewhere in that range between 10 and 25 thing just yet, strictly because I haven't devised what's appropriate for that level. 50 though will get me to make a video eating or drinking something disgusting. So I think that's worth it. You give $50, help some sick kids. Later on down the line, I will make a video, depending on how many $50 donations we get, eating and drinking interesting things. I've floated out there the idea of, like, eating an onion like an apple, doing one of those spicy chip challenge things. I won't eat a ghost pepper because my intestines can't take it. Otherwise, I would do that. I did find some sodas once that were gross. Some of them were actually good, but like the bacon one and the ranch one made me want to throw up. I had to pour them out. I literally took a drink. It was like, oh no. But if you give me $50, I'll drink one of them in full right here on this camera. Just a thought. If you have extra money to part with and you want to see me with blue hair, $100 will get you that. And then the extremely unlikely scenario of $500, I will shave my head bald. And I mean bald. Clippers, razor. I will deal with the ire of my girlfriend if you are willing to give me $500, or give Extra Life $500, not me personally. If you donate $500 to Extra Life, and it stays, you don't take the donation back, I will shave my head completely and deal with an angry woman for doing so. Thank you for watching. I'll be back in just a little bit. Here's all the random Nightbot links and stuff in the chat. Socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, subreddit, Discord, all of that stuff. You're all welcome to join as long as you're cool. And by cool, I mean chill. And by chill, I mean friendly. I don't want hostility. I don't want shitheads in my community. They are not welcome. As long as you are positive and supportive and build each other up, you are welcome in the nerdy neighborhood. I need to get up and move around. And then we'll be back. Thank you for watching.